Okay, in this lesson, we're going to learn how to create a cover letter. In the previous lesson, we learned that resumes provide information to potential future employers about our qualifications. The purpose of a cover letter is to persuade the reader that you are a great candidate for the job and that they should read through your resume to find out more information about you. The goals of a cover letter. Your cover letter is the place to sell your skills and show your interest in the position. It's a great chance to highlight achievements that would make you an ideal candidate for the job. Always send a cover letter with your resume unless the job listing specifically says not to do so. Formatting the cover letter. The cover letter should follow the guidelines of a business letter. The most common used format in business is the full block style letter. It's easy to use as all lines are left justified, no indents. A blank line is used to distinguish between paragraphs. Your cover letter should be no more than 1 page in 12-point font with 1-inch margins, left, right, and top left and right for your left and right and bottom margins. The letter has a 2-inch top margin. The cover letter should be no longer than 1 page or 3 to 4 paragraphs. After it is written and typed, the letter should be positioned slightly above the vertical center. If using a template, choose a business letter template. When writing, remember to use a professional tone, be persuasive, understand your audience, conclude with a call to action, tell them what to do, and then make sure you proofread it. So we will be reviewing the parts of a cover letter: the date, sender's address, inside address, salutation, body, closing, signature block, and enclosures. So for the date, you're going to use the month, day, and year format. You need to spell out the month's name, December 14th, 2019. You can also use 14 December 2019 as a date style, one or the other. The sender's address is your name and address. Be sure to use proper syntax with name on the first line, address on the second line, and city, state, and zip on the third line. There is a comma after the city name. Remember to add a blank line between each section, so you need to have a blank line after the date and after the sender's address. So this would be your address. I recommend spelling out street, especially if there's this much space between the longest line and that name. I would spell everything out, avoid abbreviations. The inside address is who you are sending the letter to. Follow the same letter syntax as described in the earlier slide. Use the full name, first and last name, if known. The use of Mr. or Ms. is optional. And again, I would spell out drive. Salutation is the greeting. In business letters, a colon is used at the end of the greeting. The name to use is what you would call them if you saw them on the street. If you do not know them, use Mr. or Ms. followed by their last name. If you are unsure about gender, you can use their first and last name together. Always address it to a specific person if possible. If you can't find their name, then use a job title. Do not use to whom it may concern. Okay, so right here are examples. Dear Mr. Jones. You don't want to do Dear Mr. in the first name, but it is okay to say Dear Pat Jones if you're unsure of the gender. If you know them personally, you can use just their first name, or if you don't know their names at all, use a job title. So you could say, Dear Sales Manager, colon, and it always ends with a colon. The body of the letter should have 3 paragraphs. Paragraph number 1 should be about why you are writing. Paragraph 2, what you have to offer. And paragraph 3, how will you follow up? The first paragraph, why you're writing. If you are responding to a job posting, indicate where you learned about the job opening. Explain why you think you are a great match. If you are writing a prospect letter, state your job objective and interest in the company, focus on what you can do for the organization. In both instances, you should mention a person's name if they gave you a referral. The second paragraph, if you're responding to a job posting, refer specifically to the qualifications listed and explain how your abilities and experience meet those qualifications. Focus on what you can bring to the organization. If you are writing a prospect letter, focus on how you can fulfill the employer's needs by providing evidence that you have researched the company and that you have the skills they use. The third paragraph, whether you're responding to a job posting or writing a prospect letter, you can thank the person for their time and repeat your interest in the position. Always let the employer know how to contact you within the last paragraph. There are a number of choices to use when closing your letter. Remember to choose a professional one and use a comma. After the close, and by the way, notice here, if you are using two words, the first word is always capitalized, but the second word is never capitalized, and it ends in a comma. Okay. After the close, leave 3 blank lines for your hand signature, not typed. Next, type your name. Add a few blank lines and add enclosure, as you will be including your resume as an enclosure. If you're sending by mail, print on high quality paper. If sending by email, save as a Word doc and PDF. You will send the PDF. Use your name as the file name. Include a subject line with your name and job title in the email. When writing the message, you can say that your cover letter and resume are attached, or copy your cover letter into the message. Add your name at the bottom of the email. Attach your resume and cover letter, only the PDF versions of your resume and cover letter. Proofread and then send. So let's read this article, 10 Things Employers Want Students to Know About Cover Letters. You should be able to summarize each of the 10 points on your own, and then we could have a discussion as a class. So let's go ahead and take a look at this now. Okay, students must carefully craft their cover letters. To do justice to what they have to offer, students must make their cover letters examples of their best work. When students write a mediocre cover letter, they diminish their resume and everything else they enclose with it. Hiring attorneys evaluate cover letters as a student's first writing sample. If students want their writing samples to be read, they need to favorably impress their hiring employers with well-written cover letters. To impress employers, cover letters must possess the qualities of effective writing. Writing well will set students apart. Cover letters should not be so general that students could simply change the addressee and send them to any employer. Because many applicants know nothing about the employers to whom they are sending resumes, their letters simply say, "I want a job, my resume is enclosed." When it appears that a student's principal interest is in having a job, that student will lose out to someone see as a genuinely interested in that employer. Since job seekers seldom write to only one employer, there is a natural tendency to draft generic cover letters. Generic cover letters focus on the writer and all but exclude the employer. The most common first word in cover letters and other business letters is I. Students can signal their focus on the employer by starting with the word your, as in your firm or your company, your job announcement. That's how you should start your letter. Students should follow through with other references or allusions to the employer. Make sure that you indicate that you've done your homework. Students should purge their cover letters of telltale signs that the cover letters are generic. The most flagrant sign of a generic cover letter is the inadvertent remnant of an earlier letter to another employer. I often receive letters addressed to me, but with another person's name in the salutation, or another employer's name in the body of the letter. I also see more subtle remnants, such as a reference to firms instead of my government agency. When students are facing keen competition, it matters a lot when they fail to attend to detail. Students should research employers and parlay that research into individualized cover letters. Students should research employers to figure out which ones are hiring applicants with credentials like theirs. When they discover which employers ought to be interested in them, they need to gather information for their cover letter. The most cursory research will reveal, for example, the name of the person the employer wants applicants to write to. When students aren't interested enough to find out whom they should be writing to, employers won't be much interested either unless the student's credentials are more than competitive. Students need to show a credible interest in the employer, not simply in having a job, showing they know something about the employer, not simply in having a job by showing nothing. Students should use cover letters to explain two things: why they're interested in the employer and why the employer ought to be interested in them. Properly done, cover letters supplement the resume. Many students don't address either of these questions, and many of them only address why they are interested in the employer. Simply establishing that the student feels an employer's business is attractive isn't enough. Cover letters are the students' beliefs on why hiring agents should interview them. Students should carefully frame their credentials to give employers concrete reasons why the employers ought to be interested in them. Students should face the facts. Sometimes well-crafted cover letters are not enough. No one meets the standards of every employer. If for a given employer, students don't have the right credentials, their grades are too low, or they don't have the right experience, they need to be realistic. Students need to target most of their cover letters and resumes to employers that are real prospects. Cover letters should be credible. Employers are put off by inflated, overblown rhetoric. Yours is the perfect job for me, and hype. I'm exactly the candidate you have been looking for. And most of all, bombast. You can't afford not to meet with me. Students should be unpretentiously confident. I have enjoyed success in would be a good example. Cover letters should be strictly positive. My strengths are particularly well suited to your business because blah, blah, blah. Students shouldn't be defensive. I know you get hundreds of resumes. Don't put that. If ties between the student and the employer's city are not readily apparent from the resume, the cover letter should establish those ties. Employers want to know that applicants are genuinely interested. Establishing ties to the employer's city reinforces the student's credibility. Students who have no ties need to state that, despite having no ties, they're interested anyway. For instance, though I haven't had any ties to Bellevue, Iowa, I know that your region has much to recommend it, particularly because I like to go on the river. I would happily relocate for the opportunity to work with you. Students who have trips planned for the employer's cities or are thinking about making trips should mention that in their cover letter. Students should show they are concise and considerate by keeping their letters to one page. Students should always include cover letters when distributing their resumes. By piquing employers' interests and providing compelling information, properly crafted cover letters give students an advantage. Students who follow these recommendations will gain a competitive edge. Standing alone, resumes simply present facts. Well-crafted cover letters do more, they persuade. So, in conclusion here, have you heard the saying, my first impression is a lasting impression? That's what your cover letter is, a first impression of you to a potential employer. A good cover letter does its job when it motivates the reader to learn more about you. That is, to read your resume and consider you for the job. You're now going to use, you're going to create your own cover letter using full block business style format, okay? Make sure that you have a classmate review your first draft and then make changes if necessary and then submit it for this assignment. So I'm going to recommend, again, you can use Canva if you would like. We can go to Canva and see what they have for Let's look for business letter. Okay, and if you used Canva before, you're going to want to match the design with the design that you used before. I don't know that I would recommend any of these. I'm going to go to Office 365, and I'm going to go to Word Online, and I'm going to do more templates. And I'm going to look for a business letter. And I clicked on more templates. Browse by category. Let's try that. Resume and cover letters. Here's some resumes. Right here, maybe. Letter to job. That's a good one there. We might use that one. There's one that you might use. Let's come up here, and I'm going to pick resume cover letter for unsolicited resume. I'm going to click that and download. Okay, and then I'm going to go File. Well, actually, it looks like it's going to let us change it. So go ahead and type in your name. I would exclude the phone number and the email. Remember, we want a blank line between sections. Type the date out as instructed. This is who the employer you're sending the letter to. Here's the salutation. Do that as instructed. And then right here for the paragraphs, just ignore, delete this, and type your first paragraph. Then and then your second paragraph, and then your third paragraph. Just 3 paragraphs is good enough. Sincerely, type your name, and then the word enclosure is there. So I'm going to go File. Well, let's see. I guess we can do Download. And then you can find your OneDrive and save it in your OneDrive for personal finance, in your own personal finance, and name it cover letter. Okay, and then we can go back to Office 365. And Word Online. And mine has not synced yet. So I'm going to go to my OneDrive. And I'm going to find my personal finance folder where I just saved it to. You could also, by the way, click New and, or not New, I guess. Just click Upload and then go find it. It might even be in your Downloads folder. There's my cover letter. So I'm going to click it. And now I can edit it in Word Online. Oh, okay. I think I know what's wrong. I'm going to open it in Word. It's saved as a template file. So when you're downloading it here, you're going to do Download and then type in cover letter like we did before. But right here where it says Save as Type, click on that and do All Files. I don't know if this is going to make a difference or not. I guess we'll find out. Save it in your personal finance folder. Oh, nope, it didn't. Okay, so I'm going to open it here on this computer in Word, enable editing. And I'm going to go File, Save As, to my personal finance folder. And I'm going to type in cover letter and make sure it's Word document and then save. Okay, and now I'm going to close it here, and I'm actually just going to go to Word Online to work on it. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to come back here to my OneDrive. And again, find personal finance. And now this is the one I want to use, not that one. That one's the template. This one, the .docx, is the one I want to open. And then now I can edit it. Okay. Another thing you can do, let's go ahead and Google cover letter paragraph contents. Okay. Let's click on this one. Or find one that you think. So what is the body of a cover letter? What to include in the first paragraph? Right here, the middle paragraph and the final paragraph. Include keywords. Here's an example. These are examples of the paragraphs that you could use. Here's another one. Okay, so you can use that as an example to help you. I'm going to go back. I'm sure there's other sites that you can go to as well. See here, they give you an example there too. So just Google for examples of words to put, or how to word your first, second, and third paragraph in a cover letter.